All right, that takes us to our third pick. This is a second-year team. Jamie Pandolfo, the Bob Marley Crocodile Hunters, I believe, is the team name here. Obviously finished last year in third place, her inaugural season in the league. And her roster is up on the screen right now. Obviously carried by the well-touted Kansas City Chiefs last year. Patrick Mahomes, Ty Hill on that team. You'll see 554 fantasy points for Patrick Mahomes.
Fluke.
Also had Matt Ryan, which ended up being the number 1 and number 2 fantasy football quarterbacks last year. Rounded that out with Todd Gurley, who ended up being the number 3 running back. So a lot of tier 1 keepers, which would explain why the team had so much success. But we dropped down to the tier 2. We don't really see anything there. And Diggs, Woods, and Mixon. No one that stands out to me that I would want to waste a first round pick on. That brings us to 2 interesting names in the tier 3 and 1 in the tier 4. We look at Calvin Ridley and Nick Chubb, both in the tier 3, become 16-round picks if she wants to keep. Obviously, Nick Chubb, the Georgia product, didn't start last year, his rookie year, as the starter, but finished the year on a major upside and is on a team that probably has the most press and the most upside going into this season, and he's certainly going to be a part of that. Calvin Ridley, talented wide receiver for Atlanta. Alabama product. And the name that stands out to me in the tier 4 is Devontae Freeman.
Sure.
Injured week 1. Only had 14 points last year. Tevin Coleman leaves Atlanta.
Tevin Campbell was cooler than Tevin Coleman.
No, I'm pretty sure it's
Tevin Coleman. Remember Tevin Campbell from the 9?
So now he's the guy. Like, he's the number 1.
He's old. I feel like he's old.
He has.
Past 5 seasons.
But have we not always said, okay, the knock on Devontae Freeman is Tevin Coleman is maybe poised to wedge and take his job? Or is he going to steal goal line?
Freeman, throw it out the window. The keeper is Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I think Nick Chubb, with this offense, has potential to be a top 5 running back. He is an every down back. He is short yardage. He can take it to the house on the first down. He can run through the second level, bowl over safeties, linebackers. He's appears matchup proof as well. I'm not saying he's in that but I think with the potential that he has with that offense, next year we could be arguing, if you're in the top 5 pick, that you're looking at Nick Chubb.
So let's look at the second round draft pick out of Georgia for Cleveland. Does the addition of Kareem Hunt worry you at all?
Nick Chubb is going to be fine. If you look at the numbers, especially when he finally started getting every touch towards the end, you're looking anywhere from 22 to 35 points.
And there's a lot of people last year that rode Nick Chubb in the fantasy football playoffs as their RB2, paired with Saquon, paired with Zeke, paired with whoever, Todd Gurley, that won championships last year with this guy. And he is going as a high second-round pick.
Yeah, and if you can keep him as an RB2 and him turn into an RB1, and then you match him with your first-round pick, smells like a championship.
So with the 4th pick in the draft, we're going to go to Chris Roguski, who did not make the playoffs last year. But looking at his roster right now, Ben Roethlisberger is his tier 1. Also had Cam Newton and Brandon Cooks. They're going to be his tier 2.
I can already hear him giggling.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
Getting to his team, yeah.
Absolutely. The aforementioned Tevin Coleman is his tier 3. Phil, I'm looking at this roster up and down here.
Like my team, it's easy to see
it is
how he was so bad.
The big name, obviously, is the last name on this list.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
And Le'Veon Bell.
It's ridiculous. I don't care if you keep any of those guys in Le'Veon Bell and just call him.
And I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, Le'Veon Bell is going to be his 16th round. He's going to keep another guy with him. So... So we're going to throw out Chris Carson and all these other guys in the tier 3, and we're just going to focus on the tier 4 here. So just on Chris's roster alone, we've got Le'Veon Bell, who is obviously going to be our keeper. The only other person of value I see...
I mean, this looks pretty easy.
Is it Evan Ingram?
Evan Ingram.
It is Evan Ingram?
Evan Ingram and Le'Veon Bell. I mean, because Evan Ingram could easily just be... I mean, if he keeps Evan Ingram and Le'Veon Bell, he doesn't have to look for another tight end until very late of the draft.
Correct.
Because, I mean, it's just your tight end, and Evan Ingram has potential to be phenomenal.
You're right, and what I don't think a lot of people realize is that there are no other tight ends not named Travis Kelce and George Kittle who scored more fantasy points last year in the final 5 weeks of the season than Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
And that means that owners in the fantasy football playoffs who had Evan Ingram got paid at the end because this is the guy who put up double-digit points at tight end. And you know as well as I do, a lot of times a top-tier tight end can really offset that maybe weaker wide receiver 2 that you have.
Yeah, or RB2.
Or RB2 that is almost, if you don't have that tight end, it's just such a detriment to you as an owner, especially when you get into the playoffs and you're playing against a guy and you feel like your team matches up, but he's got Travis Kelce, Gronk,
absolutely,
whatever.
And if your second tier tight end can like catch a touchdown in like the first quarter, or even if it's like a 2-yard touchdown, you're golden. You're just feeling you're ready for some more catches and yards just to go up and let the rest of your guys do the work.
Yeah.
And now without Odell Beckham there and Sterling Shepard being the number 1, I mean, he's already shown that he's Eli Manning's like safety pin.
Right.
And with him gone there, I think maybe he gets an extra 30 to 40, like not catches, but looks.
I would
like,
agree with that.
attempts.
For sure. All right, so we're going to go to the number 5 team, and that is one of our favorite individuals in this league, and that is the butt fumblers, Dave Edson. Take a look at this roster right now. Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins are his only tier 1.
I think he should keep Julio Jones and Ezekiel Elliott, personally.
Really, looking at the tier 2 options, we're probably going to come back to that. We'll look at the tier 3s. Tariq Cohen's probably the name that stands out. Lamar Miller, obviously, is an RB1.
Eric Ebron had a great year. I'm not saying it's something. I mean, that's a 1 in a million.
And that's the
year,
thing.
But man, that was a year.
It's a super year.
Can we look at that?
Had.
What?
I don't have his stats in front of me. I'll put them up on the
man.
screen right now. But obviously finished with 226 fantasy
Lots
points.
of touchdowns.
So many touchdowns.
DraftKings
just
gold.
Yeah.
Gold.
And I don't think anyone...
Eric Ebron chalk in DraftKings won a lot of people a lot of money.
I don't think anyone anticipates that being a repeat season performance.
No.
And otherwise he would be a gold tier 3 keeper. So before we go to the tier...
This is a dicey situation.
And the ones,
here.
Or the 2s. Any value in D'Onta Foreman?
I mean, I was actually a pretty big fan of Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah.
Him and the
I think his upside is fine. There's a lot of competition. But that being said, MVS, Devontae Adams has said that maybe coming, out of training camp, that this is a name that he enjoys playing with, someone that he...
No, I paid a lot of attention to Green Bay receivers last year. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He showed a lot of potential. I mean, it's not the greatest keeper. It's definitely a stash on your bench. It's definitely a pure tier 4 keeper to where you're with no injury, where you're just taking a chance that the guy's going to break out in the same. I mean, he's a rookie last year. You would definitely stash him, but to be honest with you, this far into our video here, this is the diciest situation.
So, we're looking at the number 5 overall pick in the draft. As a tier 2, that becomes your number 1 pick. Do you keep Ezekiel Elliott?
Yes.
I
go, or Devontae Adams. He's the number 1 rated receiver going into the league this year. He is according to CBS and ESPN, WR1
Devontae
Adams. So I mean, I think I would just I mean, I don't think personally. I think you keep Zeke because I think Zeke goes before the 5th pick.
Yeah.
More than likely, especially if I take Saquon, I think they start to go in order.
Yeah.
And I think that's the move.
And that affects obviously me as the number 2 pick. So if Dave decides to keep Zeke, which becomes the 5th, and you take Saquon, that really becomes a domino effect of, all right, now who am I looking at? Alvin Kamara,
Melvin Gordon.
am I looking at Melvin Gordon? I think Julio Jones, a great player.
I just personally,
Devontae Adams, a great player.
I just personally
I'd probably
don't
take
see
Zeke.
myself taking a receiver at 5.
No, completely agree.
7.
With you.
Yeah.
7 for sure,
But not 5.
If I was in the 7 slot and I had that keeper list and Devontae Adams was on my team, that's what I'm taking.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't say doubt about it. All
Absolutely.
right, one more team before we take a break here. The Evil Empire with the 6th pick in the draft. Tony Pandolfo, 4-time fantasy football champion.
Can we get some booze?
That being said, this is going to be one of the more interesting keeper lists as I pull the roster up right now. Drew Brees is the only tier 1, and Mike Evans the only tier 2, both great players, but then let's get in.
Even his like,
Yeah.
can we just be done with this guy
Yeah,
already?
seriously.
I love you to death, Pop, but your tier 4 is ignorant.
It's
Are you serious?
ridiculous.
Leonard Fournette and Jimmy Garoppolo.
No,
And Kerryon Johnson. Well, hold on.
Screw Kerryon
all right,
Johnson.
let's break-
Leonard Fournette
yeah.
and Jimmy Garoppolo can be his 2 keepers.
Let's break this down. All right. So let's
Kristen is over there beside herself.
let's come back here. So before we get to his tier 4, let's just look at a couple names on the tier 1, on the tier 3. David Johnson is obviously 1 year removed from being a stud, one of the best running backs in the league.
I drafted him.
But that being said, Phil, David Johnson's still a top 10 running back
Sure.
probably in this league. And to keep him at a 16 would be a great keeper for anyone in this league. But then we drop down to this tier 4, and you said it before we even got here.
Ignorant.
Leonard Fournette and Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo, just based on our metrics that we put together, is looking at a 352% uptick
Yeah.
from last year. Okay, and that obviously we've got the injury to play into that. But I mean, just fantasy football today and ESPN, both metrics have him over 300 points. Finished the year with 58 last year.
And coming back to a team that when Jimmy Garoppolo was traded to San Francisco,
was dynamite.
Who knew who George Kittle was? Nobody. And now he's arguably the best tight end in the league.
Him and Travis Kelce
Him and
are probably
Travis
the
Kelce.
arguments.
And now
especially
you're
with
going to
Gronk
throw
early.
Jimmy back into that offense with a guy that's that motivated with Kittle, and you can keep him and Leonard Fournette, who could both be top 5 in their position potentially at the end
absolutely.
of the year. That's rude.
To me, I feel like those are no-brainer. I feel like those are no-brainer keepers. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
very
just like,
true.
look, if there wasn't Leonard Fournette and Jimmy Garoppolo on there, and you're looking at Teddy Bridgewater,
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp, I would very much consider Kerryon Johnson, but at this point, it's just like that's a slam dunk.
Yeah, it's kind of a
Like,
no-brainer.
It's not even.
Would you consider David Johnson for for a 6?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm in a situation where I don't have to, but I think if somebody was really worried about their who'd we just deal with? Dave.
Yeah, we just looked at Dave.
Like if somebody like Dave could really get a good situation somewhere between like 6 and 9 to get David Johnson, and I would be pretty stoked with that.
We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and break down the last 6 teams of the Bo Jackson Tecmo Bowl Fantasy Football League. So stay with us. The link to the second video will be down in the description.